Since evolving the formula with Origins in 2017, the Assassin's Creed series has divided its fanbase almost in half. There are those who long for the days of 2, Brotherhood, Black Flag and see them as the golden age. And there are those that love the RPG style games, like Origins and Odyssey. But here we have the third installment since the switch up with Valhalla. This time, we're Vikings. But is it an improvement on those that came before it? Well, join me as we explore, is Assassin's Creed Valhalla a step forward for the franchise? Let's kick things off with the world. Valhalla is unfortunately a victim of its setting. I'm English, so I'm allowed to say this, but England is just boring. The map is absolutely huge, but most of it just looks the same. Apart from Yorkshire, the best part of England obviously. Each area feels indistinguishable from one another. This is even more apparent when you consider the last two games were ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. Origins had the pyramids and the desert. Odyssey was brimming with colour, we had the Olympics and shit. Valhalla just looks dull. Maybe it doesn't help that I live here, so I'm used to seeing all these countrysides and whatnot, but I just wasn't impressed by how it looked when compared to the previous two games. Graphically though, it's stunning. The game looks incredible. I have absolutely no problems with that. Beautiful game. In terms of the open world though, I think this is the best one of the new Assassin's Creeds. Exploration feels so much more organic and natural this time around, and feels similar to Ghost of Tsushima. Nowhere is good, but similar in the sense that you tend to just stumble across things to do, rather than work your way through a quest log like you would in any other Assassin's Creed game. I don't like how armor sets and weapons are hidden behind exploration and boring puzzles. I'd much prefer it if you locked them in a different way, but other than that, this is definitely a step forward. I enjoyed walking through the forests, finding secret caves, and just looking for secrets. You are rewarded for venturing away from the main path, and I appreciate that. Overall, the world works better than it has in previous games, but England is just such a boring place that it loses points in that regard. They haven't even set the game in the most exciting part of the Vikings. Like, I live in Yorkshire, and that was a main area where the Vikings attacked. So I've been to Viking museums and whatnot, I know a fair bit about them. And this is just a boring point. I'd much preferred it if the game was set earlier than it is now, because there kind of isn't really that many big historical events going on, and that kind of hurts the game when you consider Odyssey, for example. How about we talk about the combat? Okay, I like it. I prefer it to the other two. It's very animation driven as opposed to being hitbox driven, which means that it focuses more on looking cool than feeling cool. But the kills are so flashy, I can't help but love it. Let's be real, objectively, it's not even close to being as good as something like Ghost of Tsushima or Sekiro, but I'm a Viking, goddammit, and I just want to destroy my enemies, and you can do that, and feel really cool whilst doing so. There are these little animations that play once you've killed an enemy sometimes, and they're just brutal. It's awesome. Heads go flying and limbs get sliced. Your enemies are dying and it feels so nice. Once you've seen all the animations, it kind of loses its luster a little bit, but it still looks awesome all going through. The weapons all feel somewhat different from one another as well. I mainly used this chain thing that I can't think of the name of, and a dagger, and I had to change up my playstyle depending on which I was using. And I had to switch depending on the moveset of other enemies as well. In terms of progression, there's a lot. Whilst this may sound good, a lot of the upgrades are pointless stuff like light attack plus 1.2%. Like, it's just filler to pad out the skill tree. A lot of the abilities you unlock through the tree are things you'd have expected to just have at the start. I can't say that all of them bar 4 or 5 were really all that useful either, although the one where you can slow down time with a perfectly timed dodge is way too overpowered, and I don't think I'd have been able to finish the game without it because, as I'll get onto later on, I refused to do the level grinding for the later sections and went into everything 100 levels lower than I should. But we'll get onto that bit later on. You also have the real abilities that you can find by exploring the world that use up your adrenaline bar, and they're cool. But you'll tend to just use 2 or 3 that you stick to because you realise they're the most effective you have, which is an issue when you can equip 8 at one time. Overall, I found them a lot less flashy than Odyssey, where you had things like the Spartan kick, for example, which was really fun to use. I think it's a step back in terms of abilities, but a step forward when discussing the combat altogether. I had a lot more fun with this combat system than I did in the other games. Now, for the story and the structure. We'll start with the structure because I'm about to get nasty. This game has the exact same structure as Mafia 3, a game that is renowned by everyone for having a terrible structure. From hour 4 to hour 60, your main objective in Valhalla is to pacify England. In Mafia 3, your main objective from hour 2 to hour 20 is to take down the Marcano family. It's just such a vague main quest. You have your little arcs in each area of England, in which very few affect the story in even the smallest way. I am not joking when I say at least half of this game's main campaign should have been side content. If all of this were side missions, I'd be sat here now telling you about how the game has well developed side content that is worth your time if you want. Most of this stuff shouldn't be mandatory. I honestly at times laughed at how shameless it was in bloating the experience. Some of these characters were real people whose names I recognise, but they're just gutted down and devoid of any personality. You meet, I'd say, around 40 to 50 characters from, that I could just think of in my head over your main campaign alone, and I'd say only 6 or 7 max are interesting in any capacity. Then we have the story itself, which is decent. It could have been really good, but it's buried beneath all of this filler. You have 2 storylines that are moving in alignment with each other. You have the Pacify England storyline, and you have the stuff going on with your brother and the Hidden Ones, which I won't say more about. All I will say is that there is only a payoff for one of these stories. One of them doesn't even get a proper resolution, it just ends. It's as if they just gave up, seriously. I was in shock at the end of this game. The stuff with Sigurd, your brother, and the decisions you make that affect the ending is really cool. I want to play a game of that. I want to play that. I don't want to run around deciding who becomes Ealdorman of East Anglia. That's boring, especially when it won't come up again later on. For hardcore Assassin's Creed fans, you'll like where one of the 2 stories ends up. There is a part of this game that they made with the old fans in mind, which was incredible. I loved that, because the last 2 games didn't delve into the Assassins nearly enough, and this one doesn't really either to the same extent as the older ones, but there's enough in it to call it an Assassin's Creed game, and I definitely appreciate that they added it in. The Asgard and Jotunheim sections are really cool though. They look incredible, and it's awesome seeing all these figures from Norse mythology, even if I think they didn't lean into the mythology as much as they should have. In Odyssey, we fought the Minotaur and Medusa and shit. As someone who grew up loving mythology as a kid, that was so awesome to me. I was literally, my jaw was dropped when I was fighting the Minotaur in Odyssey. I had a blast. But in Valhalla, I'm kind of let down. God of War explored Norse mythology much better than this. Then we have the ending. Don't worry, no spoilers, but if you just play the main missions and no side content, you don't get an ending. The actual ending is hidden behind finding and killing every member of the Order, something that should be an optional task, and even that you get is just a short cutscene. It's terrible. But just finishing the game, not counting the Order at all, just finishing the game doesn't give you an ending. It's not like the Order questline reveals a hidden ending, it's the actual ending. When you finish the main missions, you just get a message at the side of the screen saying, well done on doing all the missions. Now go find the ending. Not even a cutscene, it just stops. This is the worst way to end a game. It's honestly insulting for people that will have played over 100 hours of this. I didn't, because I respect my time a little bit. I played mainly just the main content with a little bit of side content here and there, and I think I was between 60 and 70 hours played, but some people will have been doing everything. They'll get to the end of the game with about 130 hours played, and they will feel so let down. I feel bad for them. This game being 60 hours long for the main story alone isn't a strength. A game being long is fine. Hell, Persona 5 is one of my favourite games ever, and that main story is about 100 hours. But it has to be 60 hours of good content. This game should be 30 hours long. No, I'm not joking. If it was 30 hours long and zoned in on Sigurd's story more, rather than wasting our time with pointless shit like finding Essex's new king or something, then I would speak so much more positively about the game. It has a great story, but it's buried beneath mountains of garbage that hinder the experience. Now that my mini rant is over, sorry about that, I got a little bit carried away, it's time for a summary. I enjoyed my time with Valhalla, I really did. I played it almost every day for a month, and it has moments of brilliance. The combat is really fun, and while not perfect, it's enjoyable enough that it'll keep you entertained for most of the game. I personally never got bored of the combat. Valhalla hasn't been made with your time in mind. Ubisoft have clearly created this game as a way to suck your time from you to stop you playing anything else. It is easily double the length that it should be, and that's a shame, because they could have had something really special here. Is it a step forward for the series? Honestly, I'm not sure. In some aspects it excels. Open world design, combat, superb, streets ahead of Odyssey, but in others, not so much. Structurally, it's appalling. Odyssey's structure wasn't great either, in fact I would go as far as to say it was bad. But this is so much worse. It's way too uninspired. The game doesn't respect your time at all, but I can recommend it. I wouldn't have spent a month playing the game if it didn't have entertainment value. It's a good game, but I can only recommend it to you if you accept that it will take up more of your time than it should. But if you can get over that and just want to roam around England as a Viking, then you'll have a blast. And for that reason, I would say that Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a sideways step for the franchise. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, then please consider leaving a like, as it would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to see more content from me, then make sure to subscribe, as I upload videos just like this one every single Friday. Have a nice day, and goodbye.